what makes a good camera? Surely one that is easy to use. I think a camera needs to be easy to put in a pocket or to travel with, and you might have a great camera that takes a great photograph. I'm thinking of the Nikon F4, which is a fantastic camera, but it weighs so much, and it's big and it's bulky, and yes, sometimes you need that, and there's reasons why that camera is big and bulky, because it's got a lot in it to make it do what it does. But I do like a light, compact camera. And the camera I'm going to talk about now is the Voigtlander Vito 2. The Vito 1 came out just, well, there's a bit of a discussion when it did come out, but about 1940, a German camera, so you can see that the export market wasn't great in 1940. But they carried on making this camera after the war, the Vito 1. It's not actually stated Vito 1 on the camera, it says Vito, Voigtlander Vito. And I did have one to test on this channel. Unfortunately, it didn't work very well, and it was completely blank, the film. But it was designed originally that it could use 35mm or a film called 828, which was a Kodak film like 35mm but with a paper backing. But this is a Vito 2, and this came out about 1953, maybe a little bit earlier. And the change in the camera was that the Vito 2 does look slightly different, but it does have a sprocket drive in the back here, which wasn't on the original Vito. And it's just a little bit, the closing mechanism is just slightly different there. And the shutter is slightly different here. To use this camera, it's a completely manual camera, and if I just close it up here, you can see how small that is. It's a really small light camera. They kept the viewfinder small in this model. The Vito 2A, which I have done a video on previously, is a great camera, but the viewfinder is a lot bigger, which a lot of people wanted, but that means the top has got bigger here. So let's just have a look at the camera without unfolding it. On the back is the viewfinder here, and this little lever here hides the curl, which gives you sets the number back to 0. And back in the 40s and 50s, people would want to use colour and black and white, and this has the facility that you can actually see when you wind back, and as the film after use, when you bring that back, that releases the mechanism, but the counter moves as well. So if you are on frame 8, you make a note of it, take the film out, and then put it back and wind it on to 8. So that was a feature. So let's talk about how to use this camera. So to flip out the lens, bottom button, lens is on this is the color scoper, which is a lovely lens. It's a 3.5, so not the fastest lens in the world, but not a bad lens. Color scoper is a super lens, I think. We have to manually focus, and there's no shoe on this, so it's not easy to put a rangefinder on. Where the 2A has a shoe, so you can put a rangefinder on. So here, but they came up with two very useful little symbols. There's a triangle at 3. It's marked in meters. Yes. There's a triangle at 3 meters, so that's great for groups and general photography. Then there's a circle for landscape just below infinity. So we've got those two quick guides if we are in a hurry. The shutter speeds are for spring, what have we got here? We've got a Compa rapid shutter. So we have a 500th down to B. So we have a really good range of shutter speeds. So this is a highly versatile camera. Good range of shutter speeds. It's 3.5, so it's not the fastest, but 3.5 is still pretty good. Once we take a photograph, the film mechanism here will, as it winds on, will set the shutter. We have to also set it here, and there we are. So you have to wind on and then check the shutter. What you might find, I tried to set the shutter without winding on and thought that's odd, but that's a deliberate mechanism that it won't allow you to set the shutter if you haven't wound on. This camera is light, it's a nice looking camera, but how does it actually perform? Let's find out. The day in which I took the camera out wasn't the brightest of days, and I'm in a little town called Yetminster. But having said that, the camera was very light to use and easy to use, although I must admit I did find the focusing was a little bit of a challenge because of having to wear glasses. However, what I did like was the sharpness. You can see on this, well, this was on the rail platform, and the actual blue plaque here, you can't see it's blue, but it is a blue plaque, came out remarkably well. And I soon discovered that this camera is moderately sharp. It is very light to use, and the lens is really good on the definition of, we have a really good toner range. You see on this signpost, this is a Dorset signpost, and the unique thing about Dorset signposts is you've got the name of the county at the top and you've got a grid reference underneath the name. So this is Lee Cross and the map reference of 62188. So if I go to the map, I can actually find the precise spot. Very useful if your sat nav has gone down and you need to find out where you are. So again, another photograph of the sign. Lovely place names, aren't they? Yetminster, Ryminstrintica, 3.5 miles at Sherborne and Cerne Abbas. And I'm on my way to Cerne Abbas here. It was, as I said, not the brightest of days, but I think that is sometimes where a camera really comes into its own, when you can test and see how good a lens actually is. As I said, good toner range here. So I'm heading to the village of and before I get there, I was just fascinated by this old sign. What an interesting name for a little. This was a little road with some houses in, and it's called Mid Maze, and I just loved the name. It's come out absolutely well. I think this was on about f4, f5.6, so we have got some out of focus at the back, which we wanted, so that's good. And here we come to Cerne Abbas. Cerne Abbas is a village in Dorset, very famous for its chalk figure of a nude giant waving a club about. It was originally thought that he was placed there by the Romans, but it turns out to be a little bit more modern, well, medieval, I think. But however, he is quite a figure on the landscape, and we can see him here. Again, the camera is performing well. This is such a light camera that it makes it absolutely ideal for travel photography. And as you can see, the definition of tones is, I think, remarkably good. I think it perhaps could just be a tad sharper, but I don't know. It definitely gives a nice vintage look without being, but it's usable, and I think that's the great thing about this camera. It is a really usable camera, and the lightness of the camera, and it looks a little bit different. It packs into a rucksack, it packs into a bag, you can put it in the glove box of the car. It's actually a camera that you could keep in the car, because I think it's nice to have a film camera about you. I'm using, what am I using? Yes, I'm using Formoplan 100, which I've developed in ID11. I've diluted the ID11 by 1:1. This is the manor house at St Abbas. It is an absolutely lovely house, as you can see, quite large. They have a really good fete here, summer fair here in the summer. Beyond this is a interesting gatehouse and a well, and the well, I think it's Agnes's well, is quite a special place, and I think we've got a photo of it. No, we haven't. And we go back here to another signpost. The BBC made a programme about Cerne in the 1960s, well, 1970 I think it was, but because it was broadcast on a Sunday, it was felt they couldn't show the giants. So the whole TV programme, it mentions something on the hill, but we don't get one shot of the giants. Again, you've got this clearness of the grid reference on the top. So if you find one, the Vito 2 I think is an excellent camera. The Vito 2A is also super, but it's a little bit bigger, and the Vito, plain Vito, is a good camera, but I have had issues with the Vitos when I've used them. But if you see a Vito with a hinge filter on the front, that is quite a rarity. Thanks for watching. Bye for now. See you next time.